Well, good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? This is your coach, Renz, and in this video, as you saw with the title, we're going to discuss when you're in a situation of realizing that you've become more spiritual and that you're not giving in to the traditional religions anymore, but your family members, your friends, and then the primary case I want to talk about when you're in a husband-wife situation with children and you're coming into that realization that I can't be Christian no more. I can't be Muslim no more. I can't be Buddhist no more. I can't be Hindu no more. I can't be, whatever religion that you're coming out of. I can't be that religion anymore, but my spouse still is. How are we now going to raise our children? How do I even broach this conversation? There are so many difficult things to deal with. When you're not married to someone and you don't have children, and if it's a parent or brother, sister, cousins, aunts and uncles, it's a little, not that I'm making those any less more impactful to you, but it's a little bit easier to deal with a parent because that's not somebody you're coming home to every night unless you are younger and you live with them. It's different if it's a cousin, it's an aunt, you don't see them every day. But when it's your children, when it's your husband or your wife, it's a totally different situation. And I know many people are out there struggling and they're living in secret. It's almost like homosexuals when they live in secret in their household, and it's like a coming out of the closet. It takes them years sometimes to do so. For me, when I met my kid's mother, who we got married 5 years later after we met, we was in high school when I met her, I was already coming out of it. I was already asking questions. She had already seen me, going into debates and arguing with different clergy members and people on different boards, and different elders. She had already seen me studying and reading other materials. She knew that I read and studied other materials. So she knew, she had her eyes open going in, so it was different. So when I fully changed and fully said this is bunk, it wasn't as big a surprise, but she recognized that I respected what she believed. And I wasn't trying to change her. I was studying my material, and if we had conversations, I would speak to her in the length of her understanding. If she wanted to ask me questions beyond that, then we would go beyond that. But I wouldn't push. And then she would see me discussing it with other people, but I wouldn't push them, but she would hear the discussion. So it was a little different for me. And our marriage lasted for 17 years. We dated for 5, marriage lasted for 17 years. Religion had nothing to do with the breakup. Then I rushed into a second marriage, and in that marriage she knew, but she kind of was hoping that I would convert back over. She never expressly said it, but I can, this is what I gather from some of the things that were said. Was it something that caused us to break up? No, it wasn't. Was it a problem within our relationship? Yes, it was. It was only a problem because she knew that I would go with her to church, but she knew that I was critiquing what was being said, but I wouldn't say anything unless she asked a question. But I recognized later she was asking the question only to find points of argument, not because she wanted to understand. But when you're already in a relationship and you both have been doing the same thing, you both have been going to church or synagogue or mosque or whatever you've been going to, and then all of a sudden, well, it's not all of a sudden, but then you start realizing that this isn't right for me. This isn't my path. This isn't, I don't believe that this is true now. When you start doing that, all of a sudden, your situation is totally different. And it's even different if you're a woman or if you're a man. Because the approach is different. The way people are going to look at you is totally different. The anger that could come at you is totally different. You see, if you were a man, and you started realizing that it was something wrong, that this isn't going right, women generally are not going to come to you with anger. They will come to you with love. They will say, I'm gonna pray for you, and they will cry, and they will try to get you to understand that you're wrong and you need to come back to Jesus or Allah or whomever. But when it's a man and you're the woman, it's a totally different perspective. And I'm going to have to do this in general because I can't speak to your situation in detail because I'm not coaching you. And so I don't know all the details. But when it's a man, generally, that man is going to be angry. He's going to come to you from the Mars side of his brain, not the Venus side of his brain, right? He's going to come to you with anger. He's going to be frustrated. He's going to call you reprobate and you're destroying the family. And, you know, it's not going to be, in most cases, as loving as a woman would, because men are just not as in touch with their feminine energy. They are pretty much male energy dominant. And most women are connected with their feminine energy and not so much their male energy. Now, we all need to be connected with both so that we can come to these things with logic and understanding and come to it with love. So how do we handle it? How do we handle it? How do we deal with it? Well, the first thing is that at some point, you'll have to become true to yourself. At some point, you are going to have to fully convert, fully step away, walk away from it. Because if you don't, you're going to put your energy is going to be all convoluted and messed up. You cannot keep going and pretending, right? You can't. After a while, that you're pretending, because there are going to be things that are said that you're just not going to agree with. You know, when they say something like if you own a business, we need you to sow a seed greater than your normal seed, so that and God, and then you're going to come up to the front and we're going to pray for your business. I'm not sowing a seed. I'm not giving you any of my money for you just so you can sit up here and give me your weak prayer. No, it's not going to happen. Sorry. I've seen too many people go do that, and they're out of business. That's not how business works. Business don't work that way. The law of attraction doesn't work that way. The Hermetic laws don't work that way. The universe does not work that way. Okay? You can't go up, if you saw my video the other day, you can't go up there begging or asking. It's all about demanding, and I refuse to participate in a begging situation. But you're going to have situations like that, right? You're going to have, like, I love being in plays, but I couldn't be in the plays anymore because it was so many things were incorrect, historically incorrect. You know, Mary and Joseph weren't poor. They weren't running around looking for a hotel. The inn is Joseph's parents' house. And, well, the inn is their house, and it's the upper part of the house where people live. And the reason why they was in the manger is because there wasn't any room for only Mary to be able to have a baby, because then the room is unclean for 8 days. And since there was a census being done by Nero, then they could not have you got all this. Imagine being at your family, you got all these people trying to stay, you got 11 people staying in one house, and you're supposed to get a room by yourself to have this baby for 8 days. So that's why they was in the barn. So I couldn't keep dealing with inaccuracies. So eventually you're going to have to step away because of all the inaccuracies, because of all the misteachings, because you'll be sitting there listening and thinking, no. And then you'll be in constant conflict with your spirit. And if you're in constant conflict with your spirit, it's not going to work for you. You're going to have more frustration. Then you're going to carry that frustration home. You're going to carry that frustration into your relationship. And when you do have conversations with your husband or wife, it's going to be angry. It's going to be resentment. And you're not even going to realize you're giving the resentment to your spouse, because that spouse is representing the church, the mosque, the synagogue, the temple. They're representing that. And so you're going to give them that animosity. And that's not good, because you're increasing the risk of the relationship being over. Now, unfortunately, with religious people, depending upon their zealousy, I don't know if that's a real word, but I'm going to say it. Depending upon their level of being zealous, it could end the relationship. Many people will say that you must be evenly yoked. And for them, the only yoke that they're concerned about being even is the religious yoke. Who cares about the sexual yoke? Who cares about the financial yoke? Who cares about the having fun or worrying yoke? Who cares about any other things that you should be evenly yoked on, that you're walking around getting married completely uneven, which is why many divorces occur. But they will just jump on that little thing that you have to believe the same thing, even though their book says if the unbelieving wife chooses to stay with the believing husband, then she is sanctified, and he, as the unbelieving husband, cannot divorce her. Even though it says that the unbelieving husband, if he chooses to stay with the believing wife, that she cannot divorce him. Even though it says that, because we do what we want to do, and not what the book that each person claimed to believe and follow, we will do whatever we want to do and skip that part. So you do have that if you choose not to leave. But how do you deal with it? Because nobody still wants to live in a situation where it's that much tension. Is there enough love in the relationship to sustain this trial that you're about to go through? That's the first question. Is there enough love? You see, if there's not enough love in a relationship, it won't matter. It's not going to work. If there's not enough love, he or she will not stay with you. He or she will only see you as an enemy if there's not enough love. So you will eventually, the relationship, you will argue, you will fuss, he or she will ask you to go to their counseling, their church counseling, where they can try to convert you back and show you that you're wrong. And when you're in there and you're fighting against it, they're gonna reprobate mind, you're falling away, you're all these things. You are wrong, no matter how you slice it. Going to those kinds of counseling at the church is the worst thing you could possibly do, because it's just going to create more anger. All right, that's it. And I know some Christian trolls in the comments may say, no, that's where you need to go so you can get back to God. You're trying to send people away. No, I'm trying to send people to get balance. All right, because the fact of the matter is, what do you expect the pastor to say? What do you expect the mothers or the deacons or whomever to say? If it's Muslim, what do you expect the imam to say? Of course, that's what they're going to say. They have to protect what they have. And so they are going to say you are wrong. Now, unless you're the kind that wants to go in there and try to let them know how they're wrong, and you're willing to go through that, then that's different. But your concern is not the church. Your concern is your spouse, your household, your family. So don't go to that. Find outside counsel. Both have to agree for outside counsel. Because the other thing that you must have in order for this to work is respect. You have to respect him, and she has to, you have to respect him, and you have to respect her. You have to respect each other. If there's not enough respect in the relationship, it's not going to work. So you gotta have enough love, and you gotta have enough respect. Because whether you come into my agreement or not, I still respect you enough that I love you enough and I respect you enough that I'm going to just have to accept that we are not in agreement here. It's going to be difficult. And maybe after time, you can share information. Share information. So if you respect each other enough, it can work. You can work it out. The third thing is, and these things are lining themselves up, you love each other enough, you respect each other enough, so that you can have intelligent conversation. You see, if you go about this through argument, if you go about this putting one another on the defensive, it's not going to come out well for you. You have to go about it in such a way that you are having reasonable discussion. And those reasonable discussions should not start with, let me point out what's wrong in this book and let me point out what's wrong in that book. Let me show you what history says and let me show you what culture says. Initially, there should be an understanding of what are facts and what are emotional thoughts. Is this a fact or is this a tradition? Is this backed up by something that's true and concrete, or is this backed up by something that's floating on sand, a ship without rudder? What is the foundation of this? Is there any proof of a worldwide flood, or is there proof that the flood, if it happened in that area, was localized and not worldwide? Is there proof? What is the cultural understanding of what was said and done back then compared to how we have mistranslated it today? Get those types of understandings first. You have to build a foundation for your conversations. A foundation for your conversations are vital. Because if you don't have a foundation, then people are going to stick with traditions. They're going to stick with what they've always known. They are not going to understand any of your facts because they are basing theirs on traditions and emotions. I always grew up this way. This is what my grandma taught me. This is what everybody else does. That's not going to be beneficial to you. So start with a trivium, understanding the trivium, understanding how to gather facts, put them into an understanding of combining facts together with like sources, and then rhetoric, wisdom. Because your books tell you get wisdom, get knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So let's go get it. understand the history of it. Not just, I gotcha. I know people listen to so many of the conscious community, and it's just, got you. You're wrong, you're stupid, you're ignorant. It's a lot of that. It's lacking a lot of love. It's lacking a lot of understanding. It's lacking a lot of how do we talk to one another. So you have to understand how to talk to one another first. Now also, something else that's very, very, very vital, beyond just, we gotta have the love, we gotta have respect, so that we can understand facts and we can have accurate thinking. Napoleon Hill talked a lot about having accurate thinking in all things that you do. You cannot be successful without accurate thinking, and that is the devil's tool. If you ever read Outwitting the Devil, that's the devil's tool, is to get people inaccurate thinking. Oh, by the way, that's a good resource to start with. But that's the other thing, resources. If you don't want to if you want to prep the conversation and take time, and this takes time, okay? Prepping the conversation. Do not just drop subtle hints. Subtle hints such as not going to church, not going to mosque, not going to synagogue. Subtle hints, not being a part of some of the organizations within the church that you were in, like the motherboard, sister board, choir, all that stuff. Yeah, those are good ones, but you're leaving the other person's mind open to just believing that many things can be happening. You're not going to church anymore because you feel guilty because you're having an affair. You're not going to mosque anymore because you feel guilty because you've been stealing money. So there are many different reasons that a person starts coming up with stuff, justifications for why you don't want to go, or you don't like somebody who's there, or somebody treated you bad there. So you start finding these reasons, but instead, start prepping it. Books like Outwitting the Devil. Read it. And then, hey, honey, this is a very good book for you being able to be stronger and prosper, to get over fear and be able to, achieve in life what you want to achieve. But if a person really reads Outwitting the Devil, they will see a lot of information concerning how the devil has used the church, the schools, and the government to convince people to live in a state of fear constantly. Books like Outwitting the Devil, Richest Man in Babylon. I have a book. I should have had it with me. You know what? Let's see. Sorry, I had to go get this book because this is a very good book that I read, that I found. And what this book is that this is Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, and Lao Tzu, and it's parallel sayings that they all have. Now, reading the Tao, if you can get them to read the Tao, that in itself is a good book as well, because then they'll see a lot of things that are the same. All right, so some of the parallel sayings, and the thing about it, some of the sayings of Jesus are in the Nag Hammadi writings. So if they're Christian, you might have to focus on the ones that are in their Bible first, and then also let them read and study the Gospel of Thomas, because when they see that the Gospel of Thomas had sayings, and a lot of the sayings from the Gospel of Thomas you can find in their Bible, then they're starting to become a little bit open. They're going to become a little bit more open then. So Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Dead Sea Scrolls, start getting those, and then start getting into some of the histories. But before you get into the histories, stay in the philosophical, right? And start reading and understanding how so many things are. Some of the sayings are the same, right? And I was trying to find a good one, just flipping it open. Here's one. I just flipped it up. The Gospel of Thomas is in here a lot for Jesus, and it says that in the Gospel of Thomas, understand what is here and now, and you will understand all mysteries. Krishna said, where ignorance is overcome through knowledge of self and God is revealed. Right? So both of them understanding self, what's in the here and now. Buddha said, wise is the person who sees reality behind the illusion. Lao Tzu, who's the writer of the Tao Te Ching, says that with the sight and hearing of a child, the wise person makes no distinction between this and that. He simply sees what is in front of him. So they all got similar philosophical sayings, right? And the thing about it is that people will say that, the fact of the matter is that all these guys, Buddha, Krishna, Lao Tzu, came before the Jesus character. So here's one. And according to Jesus, Yeshua, in the Gospel of John, it says that unless one is born anew, he cannot see the kingdom of God. So being born again, right? Krishna, even though born in truth, all things will die, but out of death comes life. Buddha, in order to eliminate the discriminating mind, there must be a complete turning around, death, of one's being at the deepest level of consciousness, born again. And Lao Tzu achieved the state of a newborn child, clear and purified inner vision. Right? So this was a great book that I found some years ago, but you can find that and use tools like that so that they start to open their eyes and see that, wait a minute, Buddha wrote that. And then there's this whole story of how Yeshua spent those 30 missing years in India. Krishna wrote that. And Krishna has that saying, born of a virgin, and all these kind of things. Oh, Lao Tzu said that. That's some great wisdom, And then, study Egypt. Look at the stuff that's Egypt. Start finding and using these tools and let them be aware of it. Don't force it on them. Let them be aware of it. And maybe they'll slowly start changing. Because see, here's the thing. And they might change. They may not. They may stay where they are. So don't do all these things with the expectation that they're going to change, because they may not change. The only thing you need them to do is respect you. Respect the way you are and continue to love you. If they can do that, then you can survive the relationship. Because I do know many couples who are of different religions and they are happy as they can be. Now they have issues with in-laws, but I'm sorry, I don't go to sleep with the in-laws. I don't wake up with the in-laws. So who cares what the in-laws think? But and both people have to have that understanding, like the in-laws are not who I'm married to. But you can utilize tools like that, but they have to be right there in front of them, right? In order for them to start understanding these changes. Start studying things like that. To read the book The Secret. Then from The Secret, understand Hermetic Law. Then from Hermetic Law, the books on alchemy. And then, you slowly move them over, because here's the thing. Even with you didn't just change. It took time. So it's going to take them time. They have to catch up, if they're going to at all. Their minds have to open, and they may not go as far as you go. But nobody likes change. As much as people try to tell me that they want to change their lives, people really don't want to change their lives. The big changes you want in life are only the ones that you really, really want and that come easy to you. You don't make huge changes in your life unless you feel a certain amount of pain, and then you'll make a huge change in your life. So recognize that it's going to be a slow process, because people don't want to change. They don't like change. They're not going to like the fact that you're changing, because you're changing the status quo of your lifestyle, your relationship. So that people don't like change. So that's why you have to know, first of all, do they love you enough? Do they respect you enough? Right? Can you have intelligent conversation based on facts and not emotions? And then but before you have all of that, start using small tools to move them into an open mind. Your tools are not designed to move them to where you are, just to move them into an open mind first. Once you get them into an open mind, then possibly they can come where you are. But until you get that open mind, it won't happen. So I hope that you guys, this is beneficial to you. I do spiritual coaching, and I can work with people one-on-one or in a group with that one, or a couple. Not a group, but a couple. So if that interests you, if they're interested, I'll be more than happy to talk to you, work with you. Remember, support this channel on Patreon. Find me on my website, Facebook page, and every other place. Y'all have a great day. And remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is what? It's non-negotiable.